For the culture.
Back at it again as a For the Culture podcast. We have Dr. Bernard Ashby. How you doing, my brother?
What up, though? Thanks for having me.
No problem. Let's start with your background. We were just talking about a little bit about your background. So you're from Broward, born and raised?
Yeah, so I'm a Florida boy, born and raised. Born in Miami, Jackson. Started my life there, then moved to Broward. Then I went to Tallahassee for college. And then went to med school and residency in New York. I lived there almost 10 years. Then I ended up in DC for some more medical training, Baltimore. And I moved back home about 5 years ago. And I've been here ever since. Been back at the crib.
Ain't nothing like home, huh?
Ain't nothing like home, man. I love it, man. Florida boy down to my bones.
What made you get into medical school? Because you went to college in Tallahassee. From there, what how did that start?
My mom brainwashed me.
What?
Parents. I have parents.
We was just talking about being from the Caribbean, man. Everybody know you got Caribbean parents. Like you could be Bill Gates, but your parents would choose the doctor's son over Bill Gates.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I'm not gonna lie, my parents been trying to say doctor, lawyer. It's either one of those two.
Either one of those,
Yes.
you're golden. So I, but I say that tongue in cheek, but I kind of mean that, man, because my mom was is a respiratory therapist.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Okay.
she always kind of emphasized that it was always kind of in my environment, but I also have pretty bad asthma, and I used to, go visit the doctor.
So do I.
Okay. So yeah.
I feel you.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we need to talk then. Not to get too medical, but because of that, I was always, kind of in the whole healthcare, arena, I guess. But growing up, I went through all the black boy phases too. I wanted to be a rapper, wanted to play ball, but I couldn't play ball. And then eventually, I got kicked out of school because I was in the magnet program.
Whoa.
And it wasn't like I was a bad kid. I was just kind of like, goofy, you know what I mean? So I wasn't really paying attention. So I was in the magnet program, and when they kicked me out the program, I had to get out of school. So that kind of woke me up. And my senior year, I just kind of got focused, and so I want to be a doctor. And then now I'm here.
And do you practice where do you practice right now? Do you have your own practice?
Yes. So I'm a cardiologist. I'm a vascular cardiologist specifically. I used to work at Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami Beach. I used to teach at Columbia, so I was a professor there. And about 2 years ago, I said, fuck this hospital bullshit, fuck this academic bullshit. I'm gonna do my own thing. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
I know
Was that?
my parents have been in the medical field for years, so yeah, my dad's been in the same hospital for 15 years and still, he's not a cardiologist at all, but, kudos, because that's some smart shit right there. That's a lot of math. It's way over my head.
That's really not, but, I decided that I wanted to be a business person, man. And I think I have a lot more respect for entrepreneurs now that I'm doing it. I mean,
for real?
We'll talk. Because my whole life I was in an institution with supports. I was like, it's hard, but I knew it was structured. It was everything. Everything was kind of laid out for me. So it's the difference between, overcoming structured goals and then making your own goals and getting there. That's a whole nother ball game. So entrepreneurs do that every day, and it's really humbled me, to be honest, because that shit ain't easy doing your own thing. But currently, my office is based in South Miami, and I do a lot of telemedicine now. I also work in a hospital, and basically I'm just trying to build a shit from the ground up. That's it.
And have you been around like a lot of corona patients, or have you been around any at all?
Yeah. I've been around the Rona. And so, I don't know how deep y'all want to get into it, but
really deep. We really want to go deep.
Rosé.
pause that.
Pause.
Yeah, pause that. Pause
I was gonna say
that.
pause. You know.
Nah, man, but yeah, man, let's go because I mean, this is the biggest thing that's pause that too. I'm playing, but that happened in our entire lifetime, basically. Like, I think people are slowly starting to realize how big of a deal the COVID-19 pandemic is, and so it's basically changed everyone's lives, right? And I think one of the things that most people don't really understand is that things ain't going back to normal, yo. Like,
I was gonna say that.
it ain't no back to normal. It's a red app for that, right? And when people like kind of say jokingly, you know, before Corona, after Corona, that's really true. It's like really true, right? Remember there was before 9/11, after 9/11?
Yeah.
I already told you this is a bigger deal than 9/11. So, I mean, just on and it's not even close. You know, it's on a whole different scale. I mean, just think about how we're going to view the threat of contagion in the future. Like, our entire society is going to be set up to prevent any mass spread of a virus, right? And so I think one thing that is going to fundamentally change is how we contain pathogens. And so mass use is going to be a part of everyday life. It may not be as widespread after we get a vaccine or somehow contain it, but it's always going to be there. And you'll see it routinely, like during flu season. I think during flu season, people are going to probably wear masks more routinely, for example. That's something we never did, but now I think people are going to do that. But that's just like Mike, that's like nothing, right? Now you want to talk about on a macro level, you're going to have actual nations become destabilized because of this, right? It's causing an abrupt economic slowdown. A lot of countries are in a recession right now. We're in a recession, right?
Some people don't want to say that though.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, some people didn't want to.
The reality of it.
I mean, you know, the economy retracted 4.8% last quarter. It is what it is, bro. A recession is recession. And I think people are afraid to call it that because of the stigma that's attached to it. But you know, like a duck talks like a duck.
It is duck. Yeah.
So it is what it is. But a lot of people are under the impression that a lot of the economy is going to come back, and it ain't, right? Yeah. I think people just kind of are living with the notion that things going to go back to normal. And people are slowly starting to wake up and realize, like, oh, shit ain't going back to normal. I think it's going to hit people more. People are going to feel it more viscerally when the economy start to open up more. And so Miami, for example, is set to open up, I think, May 18th. And so
already?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
And we'll get back to that about the reopening of the economy. I have like some real unique thoughts on that.
Also, I got it. We got to talk about that.
Yeah, Clark got some stuff too.
Oh yeah, I would love to talk more about that. But like,
don't forget May 18th Haitian Day too.
So what?
May 18th Haitian Day too.
Oh, Haitian. Oh yeah, we got to talk about Haiti, man. Yeah. All right. But basically, like, you know, Carnival Cruise Line. That's one of our biggest economic drivers in the Miami area, right? Mm-hmm. A big part of the economy in Miami is dependent on cruise lines, and Carnival just cut their entire staff by like a half. So that's just an example of things that's just not going to come back. Because who the hell is going to take a cruise? Like, if somebody bought my mom
I'm not.
Hey, yo, if somebody trying to buy my mom a cruise, I'm like, you trying to kill my mom?
I know, for real.
Like, I would be offended if you bought my mom a cruise. So I'm like, who the fuck is going on a cruise that's 65 and older or have any of the risk factors for the coronavirus? They're not. Like, if you're diabetic, obese, have COPD, moderate to severe asthma, if you have any of those risk factors, right, you're more likely to die, right? And I think that's kind of like going to be our new norm. And certain industries can't deal with that drop off of a population. Like all of us could go back, we're going to be good. But then I think society, at least in the short term, is going to be oriented into protecting the vulnerable populations. That's just what's going to happen. And so the question is, how are we going to protect them? What portion of that population are we willing to lose? And the more we learn about the virus, the more we'll adjust our risk assessment of it. But like right now, we're starting to get more information on it. And then you kind of understand who's at risk and who isn't. And then people are adjusting their behaviors depending on that. And then I think on top of that, there's some long-term outcomes that we haven't seen because it's so new. So you might find out that even though you cleared the virus, it might cause some other thing that we didn't know. So these are all the things that we don't know, but things are shifting rapidly as hell. And
do you think that like more strains can come out of this one strain?
I'm not as worried about that. I think a lot of people are fearful of this thing mutating and creating a new strain, but that's unlikely depending on the mutation rate. Like it's relatively slow, like compared to HIV or the flu, it's like, you know, a fraction as quick, you know? So I'm not worried about that at all. What I'm more concerned about is, you know, just how it impacts different populations. And so the reason why Italy got hit so hard was because a large portion of their population was vulnerable to this virus. And what you'll find out is that in addition to Italy having an older population, like you might find out that that population might have a certain polymorphism or whatever that makes them more susceptible to acute respiratory distress syndrome from the coronavirus. Yeah. You're going to see that. Like we're going to learn more about the virus and we'll better be able to identify who's high risk and who isn't. But we already know, right? We already know, like, if you're diabetic, stay home. If you have hypertension, it's crazy because a lot of people fucking have hypertension. But I think what's more important is that a lot of people have uncontrolled hypertension. And I don't have the data to support this, but one of my theories, I guess, that's untested is whether or not people who don't just have hypertension, but who have uncontrolled hypertension are the ones that are dying at a higher clip. And I think that might be a mediating factor in why younger people might be dying from this when in their 30s or 40s. But a lot of people in that age group have hypertension and they don't get it treated because they just refuse to take medication or they refuse to acknowledge it. And so I think that's kind of like the built-in disparities there, you know, because if you're white, you're more likely to go to a doctor and you're more likely to follow what the doctor says to you because you trust the system. You trust everything about the system. Like the doctor looks like you, probably your homie, right? So if you like your dog says, yo, take this medication, you're gonna listen. You know what I mean? So and you have access. I mean, it's for all the reasons. But you know, if you're black or brown or poor, right? It's you're not going to have that same level of comfort or access. So that's just a real thing because a lot of people who do have access, they don't listen to what the doctor tells them. They're like, nah, you work for the system. You're trying to get me to take this medication, and next thing you know, fuck up my liver. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, especially island people. We don't really like to believe into the system.
I'm one of those. Like I get surgery and I walk out the next day. I don't have to stay a week. I don't have to stay 5 days. I'm okay in my bed.
Hey,
I haven't regretted it yet. I'm okay, but I'm just saying, I am that person.
You know your body, so there's like right. And I think it's all about your comfort with the healthcare system and your access to it. So that's when we talk about structural racism, like that's what we're talking about, right? Like that's kind of built into healthcare because the people that have the most issues with that system are Black people, people who are African American, right? And in particular, the ones who are descendants of slaves. Because like relatively speaking, island people don't have as much of a difficulty with the healthcare system as Black Americans do. And again, that's from the historical nature of how that group was treated and that legacy that's with them. And then you see somebody from the Caribbean or from Africa come over here and they'll have a better experience. So there's a lot of things that are built into the system, dog, that we don't really acknowledge. So that's what we're talking about. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that lead to people dying at a higher clip are things that are disproportionately in Black communities, but also Black and brown communities. And so that's one of the issues that we're finding with the coronavirus is disparities in deaths from the virus. So that's a whole nother subject. But to answer your original question, yes, I have taken care of COVID-19 patients or patients with SARS coronavirus 2. And I've taken care of them both in the outpatient setting, meaning in the clinic, in the community, but also have taken care of them in the context of the hospital. And basically, it's a real thing. And that's a whole nother thing I want to talk to y'all about is all of the fake news surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. It's like
what you call it, the fake Olympics?
Yeah, I call that shit the fake news Olympics. I make sure to say that every time. Oh, because shit is crazy.
No, I believe it.
I mean, like I bet you somebody on here watched the plandemic video.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Lisa said you sent it to everybody, right?
I did.
And I bet you at least one of you believe that shit.
No.
Well, I don't want to say anything yet, but I don't believe it.
At least one of you believe that you did?
No, I didn't.
Oh, who believed it? You did?
Nobody, because we're
like the pandemic as far as what the news is saying and so forth, right?
No, I think he's talking about the video that Lisa sent us.
Yeah, did y'all like look at it and be like, wow, did y'all really believe what was said in that video?
No, I just think it's full of shit. It's just what we want to hear.
Oh, okay.
I feel like, I used to work for the UN once upon a time. So I feel like there's just so much that goes on that they don't tell us in general. And there's so much that they can't tell us because, think about it. It's like kind of like how I've told them before, like there's a UFO. They're not going to tell us that there's really aliens or UFOs or anything like that because we don't know as Americans how to act, We're already like shooting each other, fighting each other over toilet paper. Like it's a new phenomenon that we've never had before from like caveman days and the Neanderthals. And here we are, fighting over the smallest things. So I feel like, no, they're not going to tell us in reality what it is. They're probably putting people who died from coffins to go ahead and get money for insurance and saying that it's COVID-19 because then they collect extra money for that, So I feel like there's a lot of negative stuff going on underneath that they're not telling people at the same time. So no, I just think it's bullshit.
Yeah, nah, you hit the nail on the head, man. Agreed, co-sign, sign and seal. But because I think you covered on some like very important points, meaning that like at the end of the day, like you can't communicate everything to a population. Like parents can't communicate everything to their children, right? And I'm not saying that the government's the parent and we're the children, but like you don't got to share everything with everybody at the end of the day. Like it is what it is, right? And so there's things that go on without our involvement that we don't have any idea of. And I think in the absence of information, people just make shit up. They'll make some shit up and then it becomes a thing. I'm like, dog, like, where'd you get that from? But I think, and that the whole pandemic video was just I'm like, come on, like, whoa.
That went far left, huh?
Huh?
It went far left when you seen it.
Way off. But what I think people don't really understand from these videos and they're not really appreciating is that the reason why these videos are so effective is that they're speaking to something that people want to hear, or they're addressing a need out there, right? And like the reason why someone like Lisa shares it with everybody is because it captivated you on some kind of a level. But at the end of the day, the fact that you shared it really accomplished the agenda of that video.
Of course.
What that video was for you to share it. And it was wildly successful in that regard. But separate and apart from that, it was a lot of misinformation in that video. And I think one of the things that they did was they figured out how to get your attention, one, but a lot of people who I know who are very intelligent believe that video. And I think one of the things that the video did was actually address like concerns that we have, like privacy concerns. And Lisa, you brought this up, like the government's doing shit under our nose that we don't even know about. You would be like, Lisa, shit's popping off right now under our noses. I mean, you was at the UN, you said, or WHO? Oh, UN? Yeah, exactly. So listen, like once she's seen the sausage get made in the UN, so she knows like what's going on. And like in a time like this, like some shit is popping off. Like there's no way it's not.
Well,
So-
yeah,
so-
the one.
That, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to, like, the one thing that I see that's going on under our noses, and most people aren't going to read about it,
Mhm.
is how they're kind of killing 2 to 3 birds with one stone.
Mhm.
So I see, like, you know, of course, they're talking about the pandemic and so forth with COVID. So now they're, you know, they were talking about paper money and how they don't want to be on paper money anymore.
Mhm.
And then literally, like, while this whole thing is going on, in the stimulus package is actually talking about digital currency, which is crypto.
Mhm.
Now, not only that, with the U.S. Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, he's the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury. He appointed the CVO of, I believe, Coinbase. You know Coinbase. You ever heard of Coinbase?
Yeah, it's an app kind of that allows you to exchange a different
Crypto.
Like
cryptocurrency.
currency, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he appointed that person to oversee all of the banks. He appointed the CVO, the Chief Visionary Officer of that company, to oversee all the banks. So it's kind of crazy because when you actually read the stimulus package, it talks about digital asset, which is digital currency. So they need liquidity.
I
I
mean,
know a lot of people with the actual checks that still haven't even gotten there.
yeah, but that's not anything like that. You gotta. I just say you gotta be careful with how you frame things, because I notice how a lot of things get misinterpreted by individuals, and it's all about how they pitch it. So part of the CARES Act, they I think it was the CARES Act. Don't quote me on that, but it was something that was put in a piece of legislation, and a lot of people said, you know, the government's going to go around forcibly testing people for the coronavirus. And basically, it said nothing about forcing anybody to do anything. It was just basically providing mobile units to give people easy access to testing. And so that got flipped into the whole, like, government's going to come to your crib under the pretense of having to test you, and they're going to force you to do it. And while they're there, they're going to, you know, be able to find your guns and your weed, and they're going to lock you up, man. Like, this is what the government's doing. Like, nah, that's not what it's saying, yo. But, like, everything that you're saying, I mean, I haven't reviewed the legislation or any of that information, but you have to be able to interpret it, because at the end of the day, like, the banks have to evolve, right? Cryptocurrency is here, other forms of exchanges here, and we're in the midst of a pandemic. It is what it is. And so I think that, you know, you want to be able to understand the context of the legislation, why it was passed and how it was passed, and what the story was, because you framed it up for me, but I need to, you know, like, the reason why, like, I like to think of myself as a scientist is that I always investigate things before I accept it and propagate it. I have to be able to, you know, study up on that piece of information and then push it out. And a lot of people don't do that anymore at all. It's like they'll hear something and then, oh, shit,
And then they relay it.
let me get it out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yo,
That's true.
right? Hey, yo, so, like, I got, see, I like to talk shit, but, like, I'm human, yo. I make mistakes. And so my homeboy posted that, what's his name? Dave East got killed, right? Posted on his page, like, Dave East got killed, right? Right? And so it was Dave East's homie got killed, right? But I wanted to be the first to like share it, so I put it in my group chat. I was like, oh shit, like, you heard? It was like, nah, clown. Like, his homie got killed. You know what I'm saying? But I was so quick to want to perpetuate that information. Bernard is the first one to, like, let people know that I didn't vet the information myself. You understand? And so I didn't share it on a popular group or like on my page.
Well, they just recently did that with the president of China. They just did that. They said he died from brain surgery, and he really didn't die.
Of North Korea, right? No, they said he died from the coronavirus. But yeah, and then the New York Post, which is really a questionable news organization, posted that Kim Jong-un or whatever, the president of
Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, but they posted that, and a lot of people ran with it, and I was like, nah, because I knew about New York Post. And
I know. I was sitting there on Google like, you're joking. Someone sent it to me in a text too.
Yeah, my homie posted that on our group chat with New York Post. I was like, once I saw that, I was like, now let me look this up. I'm like, nah, like that shit's made up. But I vetted that shit off the rip. But like with the Dave East thing, when I posted that, I was like, I qualified it. I was like, can anybody verify this? And then, like, we all started, you know, investigating it. It was like, nah, this is fake news. So at the end of the day, like people do that with a lot of misinformation, COVID-19 is the perfect environment for that. And so there's a lot of people sharing things that they hear, that somebody told them, and they think that the person that's giving them the information is a credible person, right? Like me, I shared the shit with Dave East, and I didn't vet it, right? And so, like I gotta humble myself because we're all susceptible to it. And so when I say a lot of people that I know are very intelligent, educated, share fake news with me all the time, I gotta realize that we're all human. And because I know healthcare, because I know medicine, I like to stay in the lane that I know most, so that I could kind of inform people. But again, we're all susceptible to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the way you phrase it. The headline sometimes is just it just catches your attention, and then you just want to look at it.
You can make anything sound like a conspiracy theory, man. The fact that big businesses and the people who are wealthier got more from the stimulus package than pretty much anybody else, right? Like you could look at that empirically based on how the money was doled out and who benefited from it, right? That's easy. But as though they started the pandemic so they could do this. Like, nah, bro. Like America always been like that, dog. Like, the same shit happened in 08 with the crash of the economy.
And I know people that if they didn't do the direct deposit or whatever, they still haven't gotten their check.
Yeah, but listen, you're talking about the people, right? Like that's just a function of being at the bottom of society, right? Like,
oh yeah,
anybody that's functional has no problem getting their check, right? Just think about the things that you take for granted: having a bank account, filing your taxes. Like, if you filed your taxes and got your return direct deposit, you should be good. But that lets you know how many people are not like that. Like, that's something so fundamental, and that should let you know the scale of the catastrophe that this pandemic is having and going to have on that group of people.
I feel like in a sense, it's like a sense of control,
Was that?
You have a bank account, you get money. You don't have a bank account, you don't get anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think it's social control, because I still think that the government is giving money to the people if they can find their address and mail it to them. Like, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. But what I think this is I just think that, things are evolving, society's moving along. And just like in every other decade, century, millennia, the people at the bottom get left behind. It is what it is, right? It is what it is.
Yeah, it's true.
It's been happening forever.
Yes, this is nothing new. And so when there's a war, when there's a famine, when there's a hurricane, when there's an earthquake, the people at the bottom die more. It's just a fact, And so I think we're just kind of seeing that play out in front of our faces. And one of the other tertiary, like the first, second, third order effects of the pandemic could be how we engage in the political system as a result of it. Because there's like a lot of blatant shit going down in our face that we don't need a conspiracy theory for, So like, you really don't. Like, and I think
no, it's true.
On the made up stuff, I'm like, dog, like, yo, did you guys not look at the CARES package? Just look at that.
There was actually a lady who was on, I saw it on the internet. I think they were a Muslim family. And they actually...
I sent you that.
Was it you? I saw somebody else sent that to me too, and it was a Muslim family. Remember? Yeah.
Yeah, here's the name of the act. It's called HR 6666 COVID-19 testing.
I was going to talk about that.
Yeah. They only have it in LA right now. And the family, I don't know if they're Muslim or not, but the family was like, why are you coming to my house at this time of night? And they had the cops there with guns and vests.
And the dog.
And the dog. And then you had another lady that looked like she's like the representative of the health department or whatever. And she's trying to, like, I guess she's like the icebreaker, because everybody's tense because the cops are in the house, the homes. And their job is really to make sure, I guess, if anyone coughs or anything like that, they're there to like check up on them, make sure everything's good. Yeah, so I don't know how they found out, particularly they had the corona or whatever the case was, but they come to their house to check up on them. So did you hear about that, Bernard?
No. Did you vet that? Did you look into that a little bit more deeper than whatever?
So Yeah, I seen the video, so I went into the Google and I went to go look at the bill, and there's a bill for that, but I don't know if that video is correct.
Yeah, see, there you go. See, that's it. Like, you didn't do your research, bro. But that's not a scholarly level of research. You said I went to Google.
Yeah.
If you ever submitted that assignment to me, man, I'm like, yo, I would like take your homework and like kick that shit out of here.
Yeah, it was on Congress though. It was on Congress Gov, the bill.
Yeah, nah. I mean, that's basically what I was mentioning earlier. That's the same thing I referenced earlier with the testing, and people kind of reframe it and becomes a conspiracy theory. Like, I didn't even watch that video, but I'm telling you that HR 66 or whatever, I don't even know what the actual.
It's HR 5093, and it's an act that was back in 2016.
And so this was done before the COVID-19 pandemic? Oh, and so what's that? So I thought it was something related to the COVID-19.
No, it's not related. It's just now that they're apparently,
I thought he said the CARES Act, though.
No, not the CARES Act.
Okay.
No, it's something different, and you basically seize and forfeit your assets based on whatever presumptions that they come to you with. So.
No, I thought he said it was part of the CARES Act. No.
Yeah, you should. No, I didn't know if it was part of the CARES Act or not, but
no, it's not.
It was some type. It's some type of act.
Check.
I think they call it the Trace Act. That's what it's called.
Well, what does that have to do with COVID-19 and being infected?
Because it was saying that COVID-19 was related to.
Well, no, they were basically using that law to seize and assess them because of COVID-19. So they basically used the bill incorrectly. And because normal citizens don't know the law, we wouldn't know whether they're incorrect or not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
so I feel like it was more of like a misjudgment of the law.
That's just baseline racism, or implicit.
Well, the cops were white, and
that's just
in retrospect. So.
Well, I don't know. That's not much of a conspiracy theory. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, like after 9/11 was way worse.
No, I don't think that's conspiracy.
Like you don't need a conspiracy theory to look at how 9/11, how they did Muslims in 9/11. Like they had.
Oh yeah.
They had entire policies to screen Muslim people. Like if you look like you was from that area, like you was.
I've gotten it plenty of times, and I'm not even Muslim, so I completely feel for that.
It was so incredibly blatant and unnecessary. Like if that doesn't, like, you don't need a conspiracy theory for that, right? Like we all know statistically, you're more white. Yeah, you're more. You already see that. I went too quickly, but you're more likely to be terrorized by a white male, statistically, right, than a Muslim American or a Muslim speaking person. Period. I mean, I'm sorry, a Muslim believing person. Muslim speaking believing person. Or someone that speaks Arabic, right? Like I think, based on whatever perceived biases that we had, like not even to mention the cultural incompetencies that we have as a nation, but we blatantly discriminated against an entire group of people. It was bad.
But I feel like we still, with our current, how do I say this without being like politically incorrect either? Like I don't know. With Trump and everything going on, I feel like it still hasn't gotten any better than it was in 9/11 either.
No. It hasn't. But all I'm saying is it hasn't gotten any better. But what I was referring to was the fact that like our government in the context of an emergency, like blatantly discriminated against a group of people. Like it was so bad. And then Trump comes in way after the fact and says, I'm literally gonna ban travel from these nations. Like you're better off like banning travel from Texas, right, to cut down on terrorism than any of these countries. And the fact that like we don't ban travel from Saudi Arabia, right? Like we have like, you're an ally. Saudi Arabia is an ally. The U.S. lets you know whether or not you're genuine about that threat concern, and considering the composition of the people who crashed into the World Trade Center. Who they were from, a large portion of them were from Saudi Arabia, and they're our allies. And so it's not really about that threat. It was discriminatory at its base, and so I don't know. I think the fact that happened is not a surprise. I mean, the same reason why Black folks are disproportionately getting locked up for not respecting social distancing regulations. Like, that's why is that any different? I don't need a conspiracy theory to tell you that anytime you say the police is in charge of this, niggas is gonna go to jail. Like, I don't need a conspiracy theory to tell you that. So
and they're getting
what I
people are
noticed,
going to jail just for wearing a mask, and I mean it's something that's inevitable. We all kind of have to wear it. There's even some signs on doors that say you cannot enter without a mask, and then you've got the security guard following around the black guy or the Spanish person or whoever, person of color, just because they've got a mask on or because their pants are saggy or because but it's like it's inevitable. We all have to wear masks right now, so now we're going to even stigmatize it any more so than we already have been,
But yeah, exactly. But anytime the criminal justice system's involved and they got to enforce something, anytime a rule is passed, they over police black people, man. It is what it is. Like they come looking for that shit. Like everybody that smokes weed, everybody does drugs, right? Like white Americans do drugs more, just as much, if not more, than black and brown Americans, right? Just based on if you walked into a home, you'd be like, this percentage of the families are doing drugs. But black people go to jail at a higher clip. Why? Right? And it's because black people live in zip codes that are over policed, right? And then they have to deal with a lot of other implicit biases, but you got to start with the fact that police is always in those neighborhoods looking for something, right?
That's true.
And, look at the dude with mask on, pants sagging. I know he up to something.
Oh yeah.
And you
got a little weed in your pocket, right?
Oh, they automatically think that. It's crazy to me that they do that, and I've even seen it, and then I have to stop myself because I'm like, if you even say something or you start saying something, then they start having a rebuttal with you, and then no matter what, you don't win. So it's kind of like you say something, and then they're coming at you, and then it's like, well, shit, now I gotta shut up, and it's not even like
who's they?
Yeah,
no,
you
like police and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like the cop.
Oh, the cop.
Yeah, like you say something and it's like to defend somebody or because they're wrong or anything like that. And it's like, well, now you're subjected to being a victim as well and getting arrested because you even tried to stick up for somebody. You know what I mean?
But the thing about it is, they're always going to win that argument. And
always.
I think a lot of times, we put cops in an impossible position because they got to enforce bullshit ass laws. So you could have a cool ass cop, right? Like they could be from your hood, whatever. So let's even subtract the fact that you have to be indoctrinated to become a cop. It's they're a gang. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they
right.
are. They're a unit, right? They're like a squadron, right? Like when you go to war, that's your homies. That's like
right.
You killing niggas together if you're at war. So that's a whole nother level of gangdom. But they're tight as hell. So in order to become part of that brotherhood, or even if you're a woman cop, you're part of the brotherhood because it's part of the paternalistic organization. You have to contend with that, right? But let's say you get through that whole process, right? You're not indoctrinated at all, and you still have the mentality that you did before you became a cop, right? Pound for pound, you're still put in a position to lock niggas up, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you're in those neighborhoods, your agenda is set to catching people committing crime. So
right.
That's what you're doing. So you're gonna be looking at people that and calling them suspects, and then taking basically checking them for something illegal.
What I noticed,
a lot of them have guns, a lot of them have drugs, and laws disproportionately affect a certain group of people. So a lot of the social distancing regulations lead to black folks going to jail. So that's what I mean by that. By that.
That's true.
Right,
and what I noticed too is I just study people. I look at people's names. That's how I know kind of where people are from. That's how I ask you if you're from the islands like St. Thomas and so forth. But I'm not gonna get into that. So I can look. Okay, so what I notice is when I look at the cops, I can tell they're not from this state. And I saw a video also on I think it was on Instagram or YouTube. It was on Instagram, and they were in the Bronx, right? And then they had a cop that came in, and he was real country, like he was from Alabama or something. And the guy was like, you don't even belong here. He's like, how are you gonna police us over here? You don't even know how to deal with us. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm starting to notice is that you get a lot of cops from these different states and they don't know how to deal with us, but it's kind of like they come over here hunting. That's just to me, you know what I'm saying? in a way.
Well,
It's
I
like
know
they're
that like
hunting
cops,
to
when they
come
get
to different,
initiated, don't they have to pick and choose?
you know,
Like it's wherever they're kind of not drafted like the NFL, but isn't it like wherever you're basically taken into? Like some cops will drive from Port St. Lucie all the way to Miami, you know, to work as a cop, or you've got cops that'll fly to Pennsylvania to go work because they can't get a job in this specific, you know, county or whatever. So I feel like that's kind of why we get some from different states, but I think that I don't think you have to know how to treat somebody in a specific area or a zone. I think you just need to know how to be around people in general, you know? So if you can't deal with Floridians, how are you going to deal with a New Yorker?
and then that's true too. And but what I'm saying, like I kind of saying it in a light way. It's like, you know, they know why they're coming to our neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like hunting, like, you know, kind of like they want the thrill. They want to do something. They don't want to be in their own hometown. It's like, yeah, we want a certain demographic to deal with.
So
You know what I'm saying?
straight up saying that like that there's racists going who come around
Yeah.
just so they can
Yeah.
I don't think we're
Like
hunted.
that.
I think that definitely specifically only to be after seeing that whole Ahmed thing, like I feel like that goes to that case specifically, but I don't think that is something. Does it happen? Absolutely. Am I saying it doesn't? No, but I don't think that's the case, and necessarily why cops in Florida are from different states, or why a cop, you know, from Florida is in New York right now, you know.
So what's crazy is that like I agree with both of y'all, yo. Like it's crazy because everything that Lisa said I agree with, and everything you said I understand and almost all agree with. Meaning because like it's hard not to think that way if you open up a history book, right? Like it's just like things don't just disappear, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that the FBI terrorized Martin Luther King. Like does anyone know that?
They actually walk around. You know, if you open up your Wi-Fi, you can know if the FBI are around because they're required to have a Wi-Fi surveillance. So it will actually pop up FBI surveillance.
Oh wow!
I can't vouch for that. That sounds like
Yeah, I don't know about that because I'm not gonna lie.
No,
I'm
open your Wi-Fi and it'll pop up. I promise you.
Somebody Google that.
I don't know if I really should have said that actually, but it's true.
So listen, that could be true, but we bet that. But what I can tell you factually, right, and y'all, you know, the history can back me up on this, is that the FBI did actively bug Martin Luther King's hotel rooms, right?
Yeah.
Like right? They actively did that. The FBI actively sent a package over to Martin Luther King that threatened basically threatened to kill him, or at least tell him to commit suicide, right? Or they would reveal the tapes of him smashing other women in his hotel room, right? Like literally, right? And when they wrote the letter, they wrote it like they was trying to like be a black person. It was so embarrassing. It was like, "Hey, Jive Turkey, you know, like we know all your business." You know what I'm saying? Like trying to talk like that. And the FBI literally did this, right? And they sent another package to his wife, right? To Coretta Scott King. And they said if he didn't withdraw from his whole activities as a civil rights leader, or it was something else, but if he didn't do that, they would release the tapes to the media.
Yeah, they try to discredit him by doing that.
Right. This is under J. Edgar Hoover, and this is a fact. Right. This is a literal fact. This is not like anything that's glossed over. This is not like any conspiracy theory. Right. The FBI recorded Martin Luther King smashing some chicks, right, and sent those videos, those audios to his wife and himself. Literally did that.
And I was also reading up how he was still alive after he got shot, but I heard
about that too.
Hospital, and they transferred him to another one.
I don't know.
I don't know. I was looking into it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's another one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't vouch for that, right? Like
I know you said.
People take something and run with it because it sounds plausible, but I gotta verify the nature of that. And
that's kind of like them saying Tupac is still alive.
Yeah, exactly. But this is how like
long live Tupac, you know.
Yeah, facts. But I think this is how those videos, like the fake news about the COVID-19 pandemic, kind of makes its rounds. People start believing like 5G shit, and like black people can't get it. Like people just and like you give them a good story, and like
Listen, I've been hearing a lot about that 5G shit too. A lot. I've been hearing a lot about that 5G stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yo, I bet you a lot of people believe in that.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people was telling me, were arguing with me about that.
So what?
A lot of people was arguing about that because I was like, in my head, I'm like, how does that even make sense?
No, it don't make no sense. There is no argument, yo. It's like, dog, there's no argument. It literally doesn't make any sense, right? Literally, it's not even possible.
I feel like that would have to be a lot of radio frequency to really get to you.
Hey, Bernard, Clark is quiet. Clark is quiet. Clark is quiet.
I can't say nothing. Yeah, I can't.
All right.
No, there's some weird stuff out there, huh?
Yo, I feel like I'm in a comedy club, and like some old school dude that just walked by with like a pimp suit on.
No.
That was too tight for him.
No.
And like you just gave me all kinds of content just now, dog. 5G.
That was bro. Babe. You trying to
yeah. Listen, man. Hey, so you literally believe that radiation is causing a viral-like syndrome that causes pneumonia and sepsis. Right? You think 5G radiation exposure does that?
No, I believe that I know that it mutates your cells, but I mean, as far as with that, because I mean,
bro, see, mutates cells, like you're already done right here, yo. Like,
it mutates cells, but I mean, I can't get into that.
You've come to X-Men now.
Right now. Like, you understand how a virus works, the replication cycle? Like, how about we get to the granular level and then build up your case right now? Because right now,
no.
5G literally causes a viral illness that causes a multifocal pneumonia and septic shock and multi-organ failure.
No, I don't believe that. Well, no, what I was saying is that, you know, the radiation from certain things. I don't even have a microwave in my house, but like I know. Like with radiation, it does mutate the cells faster and can cause cancer, but I'm not, as far as with the virus, it can't create a virus. No,
I don't think mutate's the word for a doctor right now, bro.
But I mean, I'm not going to get into that because I'm just going to say, because my mother had to school me on this. Because my mother was like, anyways, all I got to say is she worked for Lockheed Martin. And I'm not gonna get into that because she was telling me that she was like, it doesn't
even work for me. You're like, okay, and what does that mean?
No, but I can't even say.
You just literally explained something that made zero sense. So you think the radiation is causing the COVID-19 disease, right? So you think that somehow they're making up this whole that the fact that there's a coronavirus that's literally infecting cells, right? Attaching to the ACE2 receptor and becoming internalized. You're saying that doesn't exist. You're saying that what they're saying, they made that shit up, right? And what they're saying, what's really happening is that there's radiation coming down and causing all this illness.
No, what I'm trying to say is that, like, as far as it's not causing that COVID virus, but as far as with the cell towers, how I'm thinking, you know, me using logic is like, I'm trying to figure out why do they need to put up these towers? Because before this whole pandemic and so forth, I'm driving around the street and I'm seeing these new towers up, and they are up because people will be like, oh, you were just in your house too long and you just didn't notice it before. But it's kind of weird.
There's always been towers, dog.
Well, no, I mean, like, you have these new towers that are black.
Oh, there's old towers though. Where did those come from? Dog.
No, that's what I'm trying to say.
Building towers, dog. Like, anytime you bring this conversation up, no matter what time period in the past 40 years, they have always been putting towers up, dog. Their towers have been going up your entire life.
But here's the thing. What I'm trying to say is that why add more? Because and I see them, they're up, and I see them. I'm driving around. I see these black ones that are out there. They have the whole.
Hey, yo,
so it's like, why add more?
10 years from now, you're gonna say that you can have the same conversation. What's any different about the tower building now than 10 years ago?
That's what I'm trying to say. Is that why build a new one and why not just build on top of the one that we already have and make it better?
I can't even have a logical conversation, dog. We've always been building towers, dog. Like we launch satellites. Like we launch satellites all the time. Why do we launch satellites? Because we make better satellites that communicate better, and we launch a new one, right? So we get.
I feel like it's like 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. We're just kind of going up, right?
Yeah, he's explaining something that's always happened, and he's what's your logic behind that, dog? We've always been building towers.
Well, what I'm trying to say is
people perceiving it as we're all getting sick because of some new network that's being put up, but we're not.
No, I'm not getting to that.
Like somebody put it up and it became a conspiracy theory. This whole 5G shit is bullshit, dog.
No, I'm not trying to say about. I'm not talking about that. Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that for the virus. What I'm trying to say is, if you have a tower that's already up, why not use that same tower to build on top of and switch out whatever.
Change, bro. Why do we build new buildings? Why do we get new fridges? Why do we get new ovens? Why do we get new cars?
No, I know you get those
with the old and with the new. Like why do we get new planes, dog? Because out with the old and with the new. So to answer your question, they're building new towers because they want new towers.
No, I understand that. You know, it's just kind of crazy. You know, I know, of course, we need new buildings and so forth, be based off the population. But when you have like the as far as somebody can't move into a tower, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's going to be using that same tower. So it's like, why not use that same tower to build on top of? I'm just kind of weird to me.
Bernard, you're not going to win this one. You're not going to win this.
I'm just kind of, you know, I don't know.
It's like somebody told you that story, like, yo, dog, like, check it out, dog. Haven't you noticed, like, people are getting, like, more cancer and shit? Like, somebody came and said this, like, yo, have you noticed that, you know, people are getting more heart attacks and more sick? Look at the towers, dog. Look at the towers.
I'm done.
Hey, Bernard, you made my night. You made my night.
I'm like, yo, look at that new tower they built.
Well, I have a question.
Like, you know, there is a new tower. And
Mark, we still love you.
You know, it's just things I ask. I ask things that are known.
Based on every objective point that I just made, your argument makes no sense, dog. That's what I'm telling you, dog. Look at how much towers you're building in any specific zip code or neighborhood, and it changes, it varies, but you're always building new towers, dog. Towers are always getting built. Satellites are always getting launched. Okay? That's nothing new. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So all I'm saying is that you have to look at a different association between whatever thing that you're trying to say and the towers, yo. That's not scientific, yo. You cannot make an association in your brain and not prove it without any scientific background at all. Like, give me something that proves your point other than the way you feel. I need some kind of objective information. And towers have always been built. So like, what makes it any different? Like, what's different? Like, nothing you've said has convinced me that things are different now than they were before. Because they've been building towers our entire life, dog.
You just need a joint, and then you'll start believing him.
So what? Oh, you
need a joint, yeah.
Well, I mean, it goes to another subject.
That's how shit gets propagated, dog. Like, there
was a man though that did. I watched the video because it popped up on I don't know if it was Baller Alert. I mean, I'm sure it's not a credible source, but the guy did make the video, and he said he was like crying on the whole video. Yeah, he was like crying on the video, and he was saying that he regrets putting stuff and that it's making people sick and it's killing people, and he like went on this whole rampage about it. So I mean, I have seen like plenty of videos of those. So
exactly. So what I tell people to be on the lookout for is the misinformation campaign. And like, one of the things that people always believe is that Donald Trump is going to win again, right? People always say like, he's going to win again, right? And And I think
Clark told me that the other day.
He's not going to win.
that Trump is going to win again.
You can keep saying he's not going to win again, but we all know that with it. Well, no, we don't all know shit. But I just feel like with the world being so ignorant the way they are these days, it's just unfortunately going to be one of those unfortunate events that happens all over again for the next.
So the whole argument. So Lisa is most likely right in this conversation based on the history, right? It's based on objectivity. The incumbent is more likely to win than the challenger. That's just a fact, right? And then on top of that, Trump has already demonstrated that he could win against all odds. Like every single level, the people who said Trump couldn't win outnumbered the people that said he could win in the public discourse. But he won. And then people attributed it to whatever things were out there. But people like failed to realize the things that really did lead to him getting elected. And one of the things that he did do was drive down voter turnout. Like turnout for the 2016 election was really low. It was like an all-time low.
Yeah, because our people decided not to vote.
Exactly. But what they did was that they like he launched a very impressive misinformation campaign against Hillary Clinton that worked to perfection. And one of the things that he did was put out information out there and dress it up in any kind of a way. And this is where the whole what's the ProPublica or whatever? Did you hear about that scandal that they got the data from Facebook and they?
Oh yeah, that she supposedly was sending emails and then they hacked her thing and then they put it all over Facebook.
No, that's a different thing. But
okay.
It was called. It was a name. It was a company that bought private information from Facebook, and so they used that information to micro target people based on their experience of Facebook, right? It was so fucking effective. It was ridiculous because just think about your behavior on social media being monitored and somebody like figuring out what you're interested in and then speaking to you in that way, right? And so if you're prone to believing conspiracy theories, like they were like dropping them in there, yo. And so my homeboy, for example, and when Russia affected the election, this is what they did too. So they would plant things and make it go viral and let people share it. And so my homeboy came and showed me this video of a kid that looked like Bill Clinton, right? And he was saying that he was the illegitimate son of Bill Clinton.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Hillary always hated him because of he was a child, but he was an illegitimate child, but he was a black dude. And they were sending this video to all the black people, right? And so it reinforced all the negative stereotypes of Hillary as this evil, bitchy woman that, borderline racist, because we were talking about the criminal justice, crime bill back when Biden was senator and Bill Clinton was president, and it led to mass incarceration. So it was that whole narrative was going on, and then they dropped that video right in the middle of that, and people was like, nah, like they were like, fuck Hillary, yo, and like I'm not voting for her, and they stayed home. And so a lot of the information that's going out, you got to be careful how it makes you feel, because a lot of misinformation is put out there for us to share it as a community, but a lot of it's inaccurate. But what you're seeing is a lot of people are not vetting that information, because my homeboy shared that information with me, and I was like, yo, did you vet this? And he was like, nah. And then when we looked into it, it was fake news. It was like straight up fake news planet. It was like some made up shit. And so you got to be careful to believe, because it plays into your implicit biases, right? And like that comes through when you do search terms on social media. Like if you only go to certain platforms, like if you only fuck with like Louis Farrakhan, or if you only fuck with Kim Kardashian, that says a lot about your mentality. You know what I'm saying? It says a lot about what appeals to you. Yeah, you like it or not. So I think you have to be a lot more discerning about the information that you receive on any platform, but especially social media. And I think people are prone to it. It's ridiculous.
I do agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you that as a people in our nation, we do need to do more research instead of just relying on like the shade room or stuff like that for news. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do agree with that. I actually texted you.
People don't do it. I'm like, people rely on the shade room to vet their information. I'm like,
I think it's purely made for entertainment.
But whatever it's made for, people believe it. That's all that matters. And so
True.
when you have like somebody like a Dr. Batar, y'all ever heard of this dude? This dude,
Dr. Batar.
yeah, he's like this dude that's been talking about the coronavirus and saying that it was like it's all.
You know, I have to see faces because I feel like I've
know
heard
Fauci.
so many different doctors already talking. Yeah, but Fauci's all over the news.
No, Fauci.
There was a. I just saw the documentary of the lady too that was working with Fauci, and she kind of like came out and. What was her name again? Yes.
Yeah, what was her name? I don't remember, but that whole shit was.
I just watched that.
Yeah, that whole video was bullshit. But it plays into our implicit biases. We're all susceptible to it, so you have to vet information, dog. But what I always try to redirect people to is what's going on in our face. Like you have to look at what's going on in your face and like not ignore that. And so like the fact that like New York is going into like an all-out police state. You know what I'm saying? Like straight up, like Cuomo is doing what he needs to do to control the virus, but he's infringing on a lot of liberties as well. And so I agree with a lot of what Cuomo's doing, but like anytime again, like you put the police in charge of something, more niggas go to jail. All right, period.
True.
And so that's what's going on right now.
And they have the towers up all over in New York right now too.
So what?
They have the towers. There's actual like police towers. I've never seen them down here, so I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen them.
But
yeah. So have you ever seen them? Because you said you lived in New York too. I know like they put. So what they do is it's like so I know a lot of Floridians don't know what I'm talking about, but it's an.
I know what you're talking about.
So it's like a bubble, and they go in the bubble, and the bubble goes up all the way up, and it can hear within a certain mile radius of everything going on. It can see whatever's going on. It's wild how much they can hear. They can hear every conversation in an apartment, in the bodega, everywhere.
I didn't know it could do all of that. That's news to me.
Yeah.
Did you see?
Was that?
No, I didn't want to interrupt you, man. But
from the Bronx. So
I don't know if I believe that it can hear everybody's conversation. I don't know.
No, listen, I'm from the Bronx, and they used to put it up every summer because people would go ham.
I remember those, but I don't
drive-bys.
If it can listen to your conversations within a mile radius. That seems
well, not a mile. No, it's a certain distance,
whatever radius.
but it's not a mile. But whatever radius, they do hear.
Nah.
Because they would pop up out of the
I believe it.
I'm telling you.
Hey, Bernard.
I'm gonna tell you what happened.
Bernard's that friend is like, show me that evidence, show me the proof. That's it.
I'm gonna tell you.
That's such a blatant violation of all kinds of constitutional laws that like I can't believe that. Like that would not go uncontested. Like there's no way you could tell me that the police could put up something that could listen to everybody's conversation, even if I'm in my home right now. No.
I ran into a cop, right? So there was a cop with a van, and it was an undercover cop with a van, right? So this is when I used to detail cars and wash cars and stuff. I was like, this is way back. So I saw a female cop in there. I was like, damn, she's fine. I said it out loud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my boys, I was like, yo, you gotta see her. She's fine. And she started laughing. But I didn't say it like right there, like in like how you can kind of hear through the car. I said it in the back. And when I went to the front, she started laughing. I'm like, why are you laughing? She was like, I was like, what? I couldn't.
They can hear. You'd be surprised. Because whenever we did like, whenever I used to work for the UN, that like we used to pick there's different FBIs for drivers and stuff. So they would all have. I mean, it doesn't hear a lot, but everyone does have a mic in their ear where they can hear everything.
Well, that's different from what you're saying. I mean, like you have something that enhances your hearing, but that's plausible. But like a big reason why Edward Snowden became a big deal was because he revealed like the FISA courts wiretaps, right? And like it basically gave the government carte blanche, right? They could listen to any conversation of a suspected terrorist internationally. So they were like literally eavesdropping on people's conversation. They would call Iraq.
Oh yeah, he's like CIA's like top intelligence employee.
That's real, right? Like I could 100% tell you about that because Edward grabbed his record and showed it to you, right? And they would bring like these warrantless wiretaps, right? And they would basically say like, we suspect them of doing something. And they could make up anything, and they were like eavesdropping on everybody's conversation, right? That was a real thing. So 100%, you don't need a conspiracy theory to like talk about that. Like our government literally doing that, and we use 9/11 as the reason for why we did it. You know what I mean? So they're doing that right now. Like they're over policing us. Like there's a lot of privacy issues, right? Google and Apple are going to utilize some contact tracing software that they're going to automatically upload to all of our phones, right? And so, like if we were exposed to somebody with the virus, like we will be alerted, right? And so that's something that's already coming down the pipeline. So there's real things that are already out there that we can talk about right now. Like yes, you guys show me that, and I'll prove that. But we've all seen those headlines. Have you not seen those? Or
Yeah.
seen the testimony?
Yes,
Like
I'm so sorry. I can't. This fucking Zoom shit cutting out. It was like in court.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm done with Zoom. I'm going back to Google. I'm going to Google after this.
Sorry.
yeah.
I tried to hold this in so hard and I couldn't. I just was fucking cracking up like this shit fucking sucks. This Zoom
Zoom?
had me
Yeah.
dying. Like, and cut. Next.
Hey, Zoom remind me of my brother calling me from jail, man. But like they're more polite on that line. At least they tell you they're about to cut the shit.
You have 5 minutes left. You've got 30 seconds left.
Yeah, they give you that minute. They give you that minute warning. It's a wrap. Yeah.
Oh shit! I didn't realize everybody got on while I was cracking up to Rose.
That's all good. Zoom is the jail line.
Literally the jail app. That's what they need to rename it.
I wanted to ask you too, Bernard. On your thoughts, do you think it's the pandemic is getting worse or better?
It's getting better, at least in certain areas. So you have to like answer that question, like I guess objectively. And so if we're talking about like the infection rate, whether or not the hospitalization rate, the intubation rate, the death rate, like all of those are coming down in Florida and most areas in the U.S. So like the rate of infections, the rate of hospitalizations, the rate of ICU admissions, and the rate of death are all declining in multiple areas. A couple areas it's increasing, but in Florida, for instance, it's coming down. So it's getting better. So we've already plateaued, and the social distancing measures worked. And so the stay-at-home orders, all that stuff worked because it blunted the curve, because it decreased the transmission of the virus, kind of shut it down. Well, not shut it down, but at least decreased it substantially. And
do you anticipate a whole second wave of this?
So I anticipate that it's going to keep going. At what rate? It depends on interaction and a lot of different factors like mask use and hand cleaning and contact tracing. So every state is variable. There's a lot of different factors. It does appear that warm weather does decrease the transmission rate. So I think that's also a factor, but it's totally new to our immune system, at least for the most part. And so herd immunity, a lot of people talk about it. They sound like clowns. That's unscientific. And so it's going to be around for a while. And so what I do know, that's why I call it the Rona era, right? Like you could look at other countries, like a Germany, for instance, right? Germany did 10 times better than we did. Like they reacted aggressively and strategically, and they did a lot more of the right things, and they reopened up pretty aggressively. So they were like, "Yo, we back to work." I got people over there. Like my homegirl worked in in a store, clothing store, and they were back to work over there normal. I'm like, that's crazy. But
When was
you know,
this? When did she go back?
I don't remember now. Maybe it was like 2 weeks ago now.
Oh, that's
My
I
sister's
thought
mom
everything
is in Germany, and she's doing the same thing. She's out and about, and I mean, she's wearing a mask and taking precautions, but
Yeah, but
she's
what's
over there
different
in
about
Munich.
Germany than here is the population demography, the susceptibility to the virus, the endemic nature of the virus, like how many people have the virus, where the virus active. It's a lot less in Germany than it is here, and their ability to test and contact trace is a lot better. Their capacity to do that is a lot better than here. And there's no reason that should be the case. Like, it just shouldn't be the case, but their government was more equipped, handled it better than our government did. And so, like, what people aren't really realizing is because our leadership failed in controlling this so badly, that's really the cause of the economic destruction that we're seeing, is because we've done so poorly handling it. And so when people ask me, like, are you concerned about us reopening too soon? I'm not really as concerned about that as I am about how we're reopening. And so if we have an outbreak, how do we contain it? Like, they can't even answer that question. Like, like that to me is more concerning than anything.
So I'm sure you have a bunch of clients. So if your patients can't go to your office physically, so then you did say that you're doing the virtual.
Yeah, I'm doing telemedicine, but yeah, like for instance, the mayor of Miami Beach is instituting a lot of the social isolation rules. So like they're giving businesses some rules to abide by in order to open up, right? And that's cool. You're giving people guidelines and saying this is how you got to do it. I appreciate that, but again, like our ability to mitigate the virus, I'm concerned about that. And so we got to reopen at some point. It's just that we haven't been proactive about containing the virus. You know, luckily, like, we instituted aggressive stay-at-home orders, which saved a lot of lives, but we're making the same mistake now. So yes, we're going to have episodes where it's going to shut down again because of outbreaks. Like, that's basically inevitable based on the plan. Like, you're not planning for outbreaks, so like you're gonna have to shut it down again, or you're gonna let people die. But either way, it's not gonna be good. You know what I mean, economically or based on mortality rates.
Another
so
question
do you plan to reopen at all or no?
Is that me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm opening it next week. But basically, I'm only seeing like a few patients at a time, and it's, you know, respect the social isolation, social distancing rules, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, like, some patients have to get their care, right? And so I have patients with heart failure, I have patients with coronary artery disease, I have patients with diabetes, and so I'm probably doing 80% telemedicine, but some patients I got to see and evaluate them. But unlike most practices, I prefer telemedicine. Other practices I actually prefer inpatient visits because it's better for the bottom line.
Wait, speaking about, you know, like, you know, you're in the field, like cardiovascular field. Like, do you see, like, I'm just real curious. Do you see people with, like, who are vegetarian, who have like blockages in their heart, they have heart problems, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people who take a vegetarian diet versus vegan, or just meat eaters, like people who eat meat. Like, do you see people with heart issues that are vegetarian their whole life?
So that's one of the things that I call out is like the vegan agenda, because the answer is yes. I see people who are vegetarian or vegan with coronary artery disease? The answer is yes.
I believe it. I had high cholesterol and I was a vegan, so
yeah. But the answer is at a much lower rate, you know. So they get it, but not to the same extent as the general population, right?
Don't eat like me.
Huh? I mean, that's
don't eat like me.
But you have to understand that there's like environment, and then there's genetic factors at play. So you can do everything right and still develop coronary artery disease, but it depends on your genetic predisposition to developing it. but the environment does play a huge role. But you can be a meat eater and still be protected from coronary artery disease. And so it's not just veganism that protects you. So there's plenty of meat eaters who live long lives, you understand? Mm-hmm. But they do other things, right? They eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. They go walking a lot. You know, they're more, they have better quality lifestyle habits. You know what I'm saying? That's true. So those are the people that live the longest. And one of the things that we found out, just in terms of this life expectancy data, or who lives the longest, is like people who move the most. Like, so the more you move, the longer you live. So like people who, you know, walk more, like people who have like the hunters and gatherers, and once they move past a certain age, if they're moving.
I believe that, because my mom is still kicking, and she is.
but movement is a huge factor in longevity. But other than that, it's your diet, which is hugely important, right? And so we haven't gotten it down to a science, but if you eat a good amount of fruits and vegetables, and you get all the key antioxidants and nutrients through your diet, like you generally live longer, right? But if you're more sedentary, if you eat more of certain foods that cause inflammation, you're more likely not to live as long. And then smoking is another one. People who smoke don't live as long, and it doesn't matter what you smoke, it's just if you smoke. Period. So it's not just tobacco, it's just smoking.
Yeah, that's
so
what you're saying.
They even get it, they have it down to like, they have certain tribes and certain indigenous areas, like when they started like smoking their meat or like burning things inside of their hut, like they died at a higher clip. You understand? And it was a smoke, right? It's an irritant. So
right.
Certain general things, and like vegans, they're more likely to avoid those things, because once you decide to become vegan, like that's not just a vegan decision, it's a lifestyle decision. Like
it's so hard too. You even attempt to eat meat. I shocked my system so bad trying to eat meat in Texas, thinking it's grass fed, we're good, we're gonna experiment a little. No, I was miserable for like a whole 3-4 days because I shocked my system. My dad's like, "You're retarded. You shocked your system."
Yeah,
I told you so, because he was vegetarian for so long.
Wow.
You know, and he's an anesthesiologist, so he's not a cardiologist, but you know, he's still in the medical field. So he's like, "It's good for you. You should do it." Blah blah blah. And
but it is.
Of course, I did, but I tried to. I was like, you know, this steak looks so juicy, yo. Like, I really just want to try it, and I regretted it endlessly. And I still, to this day, cannot eat meat.
Well, that's not a bad thing, because if you eat meat, you're more likely to come in contact with carcinogens, right? And because a lot of preserved meats, they found out has carcinogens, especially like bologna, ham, all that stuff. The stuff that they use to preserve it and give it that pink texture is a carcinogen. It is what it is, and that it increases the risk of colon cancer. So like that is a factor of decreasing cancer, right? So it's not the vegan diet, but you were like avoiding that known carcinogen that was FDA approved, right? That
well, I actually switched because I had a hysterectomy, and my doctor told me that it would be like the best thing for me, just because like the hormones and everything like that. So that's why I switched. But now it's like I tried to like slowly go back, and it was just like not happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's what it is. But at the end of the day, like vegans, they do live longer. So yes, I agree. And but people who move their body, people who eat more fruits and vegetables, people who don't smoke live longer as well. So that's my only point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anything else, man? My bad for roasting you about the 5G, man. But
it's all good.
Hey, are you a vegan? Bernard?
No, I'm not. But I'm not opposed to being a vegan. But I probably would never be a vegan. I want to, you know, get down to being a pescatarian, possibly. But
that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
But for me, I wouldn't not ever eat meat. I would just eat it on very rare occasions, like, you know, quarterly.
Yeah, see, I tried that, dude, but I just don't live. I die
Yeah.
every time.
But for me, like I want to have more natural foods. I think when you eat like, you know, fresh fish or fresh fruits and vegetables, green leafy vegetables, more nuts, legumes, beans, all those things have been associated with longer life. So I want to eat more of that, you know, and fish too. Fish has omega-3 fatty acids, which is very good for the arteries. And so fish eaters do well from a cardiovascular perspective. Like wine drinkers do well from a cardiovascular perspective.
Oh, I heard about
Wine
that.
is good for everything. Wine good for everything.
Yeah, I mean it's like for whatever reason, like we think we know the mechanism. At least for red wine, we do, and it's actually been proven with a randomized controlled trial. But people who drink alcohol, who drink mild to moderate amounts of alcohol, have less cardiovascular disease. Period. They live longer, and so alcohol use, and it depends on the type, but has a protective effect. So when people drink too much or they binge, that it increases cancer and liver disease. So it's like a balance kind of, and it's more like how you live your life. Like caffeine drinkers have no issues, and in fact, you know, caffeine.
Really? Don't tell me that, because I drink way too many cups of coffee, I think.
No, it's just associated with longer life, but we don't know if it's related to the caffeine or the type of people that consume caffeine, right? Because you know, type of people that consume caffeine, you know, have a higher SES, socioeconomic status in general. But there's a lot of other associated factors with caffeine drinkers, so we don't know if it's caffeine. No, I don't think we've ever proven that. But at least at a minimum, it's not bad for you. You know that.
I feel like I can't manage my day without coffee, you know?
Yeah, I mean, people get concerned because they don't want to get dependent on something because, you know, caffeine.
No, I can go without it. It's not like I'm addicted to it or anything like that. You know, like people say they have that caffeine. Like, I don't drink soda. I'm literally water and that's it. But, you know, occasionally I will.
But, you know, caffeine's a stimulant. I think it like blocks phosphodiesterase or whatever. But it gives you a neurological effect, right? And people like it. It releases, I don't remember the hormone dopamine or serotonin, I don't remember, but it does that. Like it actually affects your neurological system. And so over time, you get accustomed to it. When you don't get it, people have withdrawal. And so that's a real thing, but it's not like detrimental. You know what I mean? Like even if you drink coffee every day, like it just doesn't affect your longevity or anything like that. So having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea once a day is not necessarily a bad thing. You understand? So that's all. A lot of people think it's bad, but what's bad is the milk and sugar you add to the coffee. That's the bad thing, not the coffee.
Hey, I drink it black, so we're good.
Yeah, it's good for you, man. It is what it is. Anything else?
I was talking to Holistic. She's pretty holistic. She's onto like all that organic stuff, and she was saying that the coronavirus is just mucus in our system.
It's what?
Mucus, like it's just mucus in your system. Look, Bernard's dying.
Oh man!
look at Clark. Look at Clark. Look at Clark.
Don't bring me up in this. No,
But like, hey, what do y'all do for a living? Let me ask you what y'all do for a living.
I go to school and I work, so that's what I do for a living right
All right,
now.
what are you studying?
Business and marketing.
Business and marketing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Lisa?
Me? Wait, what?
Like
what do you do? What do we do?
Like, what's your expertise? What's your area of expertise?
Oh, I was a paralegal for 7 years, and I'm a professional stylist.
Got you. All right. What about you, Clark?
Me, I went to school for automotive technology, really mechanic, but I'm more of the engineering side behind the cars.
All right, cool. So let me ask you a question. Like, so Clark, you know cars, right? Right. So if I came at you and I was like, yo, like the reason why your car is not working is because your starter is broke, right? And somebody came up to you and like try to explain that shit to you, right? You be looking at them and you know it's something totally different. Like it's a dead battery, right? And like, yeah, because when the car go click, 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 I knew the starter broke. Like, what? That shit don't even make no sense, dog. Like, what are you saying? So it's like somebody explaining to you an area that you understand, and you like it's clear they don't have an understanding. Like, what are you saying right now, right? So when somebody says they have mucus, I'm like, all right, what? Okay. I'm like, what? What kind of elementary level understanding are we talking about right now? Right. So that's so simplistic. It's like I can't even like process that. And so the answer is yes. Okay. Anytime somebody gets sick, they produce more mucus. Okay. All right. Duh. Okay. Right. And so the coronavirus, right, causes COVID-19 disease, right? And when the virus infects the cells, there's an inflammatory reaction to it caused by the immune cells. So you have the cells that come in and try to control and contain the virus. And in the process of coming to control and contain the virus, you have the release of cytokines and all kinds of other inflammatory factors that increase secretion, okay? But in addition to increasing secretion inside of these little air sacs, the alveoli, you have dead cells that end up in there and just debris, right? And that increases mucus, or more specifically pneumonia, just a concoction of different things from the inflammatory response that's in your lungs. And so that's what's going on. So I don't know what she's talking about. Yes, okay, but what? It's just
maybe
mucus?
this is really ignorant to even ask, and you're probably gonna roast me after this too, but that's okay. If they have, okay, so what? I've had walking pneumonia, right? But I've never had actual pneumonia. So if I got walking pneumonia, would I be more susceptible or than regular pneumonia or not?
All right, so like that's another one, right? Like so, walking pneumonia. All that means is that like you have like you meet the definition of pneumonia, but it didn't knock you out, right? But usually when people get pneumonia, they can't fucking get out of bed, right? That's all it means. That means that you got a relatively mild form of pneumonia and you're young and healthy. That's all it means. Because some other person could have got that same pneumonia that you had, that you were walking with, and been short of breath and bedbound.
Right.
All about your capacity, your lung capacity. So there's certain organisms like mycoplasm or well, I can't think of it. Yeah, mycoplasm probably the main one. Maybe there's some other like mild pneumonias with that cause atypical pneumonias that can cause mild pneumonia, and there's viral pneumonias as well. So some viruses can cause pneumonia, and all pneumonia means is that it's causing an inflammation in your lungs, right? And as a result of that inflammation, it's causing either damage or inflammation around your ear sacs. So that's what a pneumonia is, right? And so you have pneumonia that could fill your lungs up with a bunch of fluid and impair oxygen exchange to a level where you need oxygen or you need a tube. Or you have a mild pneumonia which causes a little inflammation and only mildly impairs oxygen exchange, and over time it clears, right? And so there's levels to this, right? And so basically in terms of like pneumonia, it's more of a disease process than the organism, because a bunch of like viruses and bacteria and other organisms can cause pneumonia, and that's just saying it causes damage to your lungs essentially.
Okay. I was just wondering.
So when this woman is like saying, hey, the COVID-19 is not a virus, it's just mucus. Like, come on, yo, just like I can't even talk to you, yo. Like that means like you have a very rudimentary understanding of the disease process. So yes, it's mucus, but it's a virus that's going inside of cells that your immune system is trying to fight off, that's causing secretions and inflammation inside of your lungs and causing a pneumonia, which a part of that, it increases secretion of fluids and mucus. It is what it is. Okay, so your holistic friend, I'm sorry, is just not either they were trying to simplify it for you, or they have no idea of the process. It just doesn't make any sense.
What about Dr. Sebi? Do you believe anything he does, anything like that?
I don't
No?
think he tried it. No, yeah. So many people believe Dr. Sebi, man. It's crazy, yo. But
the same girl I'm talking about went to him when she had problems, and that's where she adapted most of her stuff.
So let me ask you a question. Didn't Dr. Sebi say he can cure AIDS, right?
AIDS.
Well,
Yeah.
He proved it.
Okay, did he say that or not? Yes or no?
From my understanding, he said not. I don't know if he said he could cure it. He just says he just used organic properties like plants and stuff like that to.
He said he got rid of it, and he had documents. Went to the Supreme
That's
Court.
what it was either one of those. I didn't even
Yeah.
research him well enough to even discuss. To be honest.
So there you go, right? So Clark says that he could cure HIV, and they tried to like throw him in jail for it, and he had a document to prove it, right? Like, but he had the cure, and right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when none of us
I know
saw the
somebody
cure.
else, but I'm not going to get into that though. I can't.
Right. So like let's just look at the logic of all this, right? So let's assume that he had the cure. How come we don't have the cure?
But that's
Supposedly.
well, as far as
Wait.
so it,
the government said so.
okay, so the pharmaceutical companies won't make money.
With everybody, like, why is that some big secret? Like, why could he have not written it down, put it on a video, and made that shit go viral, or gave it to someone?
But did we have internet then?
Or just get 30 people and say, hey, this is the cure for HIV. Go out and share it with the world. How come he couldn't do that?
Because he's not a doctor. He wasn't on paper a doctor.
You understand the fallacy of this logic? You understand? You understand like there's no argument to that?
On paper, he wasn't a doctor, but
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah. If he said, yo, you take this bean right here, and then you take this rock, and then you ground it up in this turkey berry juice, right? Like he could, like, why couldn't he tell somebody that? Why not?
I know somebody else who has it.
Only Dr. Sebi could do it?
Not only him.
What kind of healer is the only person that could heal? Like, that shit doesn't make any fucking sense, dog. Like these people. Huh?
No, I actually know I know somebody else. I already know somebody else
who could cure HIV? You know people that could cure HIV?
No, well, I'm not even gonna get into that.
I'm not gonna get into that. But
no, I do.
But dog, that's
the person that I know got approval to go to the CDC.
Oh God! All right.
And she went.
So can you cure HIV or not? Like HIV is killing the black community at a clip that's never been seen before. We're dying right now. Like where are they right now? Where's your person at?
But they're different strains. They're different strains though.
But
I can't that are manipulated.
I can't even entertain it.
But the thing is, somebody who actually runs this is in Philly too. Somebody that I know, their father that runs an HIV clinic up there, and he was telling me, he was asking me, what's the number one way you can get HIV? And I'm like, oh, it's sex. Oh, it's this. He's like, nah. He said it's from getting your hair cut. When people don't, use barbicide, they don't go to sterilize their stuff.
All right.
Which is crazy, which sounds crazy.
I've had family members pass away from AIDS, so there is no way I'm allowing a haircut to be the definition.
Hey, Clark, I'm telling you, what literally done. Like, you're talking to me, dog. Like, this is what I do, right?
Okay.
All right? Like, there's so many things wrong with what you just said. I can't even understand? And so you're saying that it's easier to get HIV from getting a haircut with clippers, right? Like a barber cut a nigga with AIDS, right? And then come and cut your hair. You're saying the transmission from that is the greatest.
No.
Wait, no,
but how not? How not?
He just said.
But how not though?
Okay. So you think that's more efficient than if a nigga with AIDS is injecting heroin and says, hey, use my needle? Don't you think that is more efficient than cutting somebody's hair?
But this is like how I had a conversation with somebody who.
Hey, no.
I said,
you said. No, I gotta ask you a question. Just answer my question, dog. Just answer my question. Yo, do you think if an IV drug user who has AIDS injects some heroin and takes the needle out of his arm with blood on it and gives it to somebody else and they inject it, right? You think that way is less infectious or efficient than going to the barber.
But how many people do heroin compared to people who get haircuts?
Listen. I cut hair.
Mm-hmm.
The sanitation that goes behind it, you would have to really fuck someone up. You change razors after every beard shave. You clean your clippers after. You want to see the product? Look here.
No, I understand. I know where to use barbicide and so forth.
We clean shit.
Yeah, use that. I know what that is.
But
No,
I have family members who have died from AIDS, from having it for years, from just having sex, from being back in the AIDS era.
Yeah.
So compare that to getting a haircut. That's just not even feasible, bro. Like, not even close. It just can't happen. Like, it happens, but I feel like the percentage of that happening from a haircut versus just sipping off of somebody's straw is like two different worlds. Like, people, we sanitize all the time. So me as a stylist, I gotta say nah, and me as family members that have passed away from that specifically, and I'm not talking about just 2 or 3 or 4, I'm talking about like at least 10 family members from back in that era. It was definitely not from no motherfucking haircut, because women do not get that from a haircut. We do not get any blood transfer. We're color, we're ammonia, we're haircuts, we're blow dries, we're heat. There's nowhere near that. So yeah,
the majority
for men maybe, but for women, absolutely not.
And what she's saying is backed up by the data, yo. So there's no epidemiological data to back up your point. Like there's like we study this shit. We look and see like where do the infections come from, right? And we're not saying, oh, everybody that goes to this barber is getting AIDS. Like that's not even coming up. It's possible.
No, I'm not saying everybody.
But what I'm saying is what we have seen is that anybody that went to this crack house and was with that crackhead got AIDS, right? Like we could figure out those transmissions from patient 0 that came in the crackhead that had the AIDS that shared a needle with somebody else, and so we tracked that. We tracked it to male on male sex, like gay sex, anal sex in particular. Very high transmission rate relatively, and that's why in communities that don't use protection, that have a high amount of that particular type of intercourse, are more likely to have high transmission rates. So that's why Atlanta in particular has very, very high transmission rates of HIV. And then if a male has that same kind of intercourse, anal intercourse with a woman, sorry to be so graphic, guys, but it's more efficiently transmitted than vaginal intercourse, basically. And it's because of the nature of the transmission. And so, yes, to your point, it's possible to transmit HIV via a haircut.
Yeah.
It's possible, but it's incredibly inefficient, right? It might not even be possible, but it like for argument's sake, let's say that the clippers cut somebody, you're bleeding a lot, and then you cut somebody else and they're bleeding a lot. It's, I guess, technically feasible, but it's just not. Somebody made that up.
I feel like you would have to cut that secondary person.
So your friend immediately got discredited by me, by you, and you propagated misinformation. So I want you to go back and investigate that particular comment and realize why that is so misinformed, because that way, like, people are not getting HIV from haircuts. It's just not a thing, right? Okay. I'm concerned about that, because you think about it, like, you don't clean your clippers in certain neighborhoods, but it's just not backed up by the information. And you could always say the information is skewed, but based on the mechanism and how it works, I just don't see how that works either, because I know how HIV is treated, and it's the type of fluids that's contained in, and like its survival rate outside of the body, and cutting hair just doesn't seem like an efficient way of spreading it. There's a reason why it's a sexual transmitted disease, right? It's not a respiratory disease. It's not that kind of disease, right? Like, it's an STD, okay? It is what it is, right? And so in addition to being transmitted sexually, it's transmitted to IV drug users as well. And so HIV and Hep C, there's a lot of co-transmission with those two, because Hep C is most efficiently transmitted from blood to blood. And so people that got blood transfusion back in the day, but even like dentists were transmitting it for a while because their equipment was dirty. So to your point, it's possible, but you're always having bleeding in the gum, you're digging up in the gums, and so but the epidemiological data caught a lot of these doctors who were transmitting HIV because you know, they saw that there was a breakout in a particular area, and they traced it back to that doctor. So all I'm saying is that's plausible, but it's not backed up by any objective information. That's all I'm saying.
I hope we're not making you go crazy.
No, but what you realize is that a lot of people believe things, and you don't even realize it, dog. And even me, like, we all have our blind spots, and so when you get new information, you change your opinion based on that, right? And I think a lot of times, even on social media, you're exposed to information that's not in your area of expertise. So if somebody told me some shit about your area of expertise, I'm more prone to believing it because I just don't know a whole lot about it, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So if you don't understand it, you're more prone to it.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'm making an association, and I'll say oh, every time I see this, that's the case. But if you deal with something more every day, all day, you're gonna have a different perspective on it. And this is a long conversation, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't expecting it to get this long, but hey, things happen, I guess. We only got 5 more minutes left anyway. I wanted to ask you, why is Donald Trump, when he does speeches, why he's never wearing a mask?
Yeah, Donald Trump is like objectively doing poorly as a president right now, objectively, right? And so the way he's handled the entire pandemic has been completely inept, and it's really setting our country back. And it's like, we have to understand how bad he's handling it to really move forward as a country. And I think most people don't really understand how bad he's doing. And the fact that he's even a contender for the election this year is mind-boggling to me, because the WHO notified everybody in like the latest January 30th, right? And the fact that he only stopped travel from China, and that's all that he really did. He didn't mobilize anything. He didn't like get us enough testing. He didn't do contact tracing. He didn't like mobilize the hospital. Like, he didn't do anything. And he actually had a reactionary approach to it. Shows his level of incompetence. So if you look at other leaders in like countries like New Zealand or Australia or Germany or South Korea, they just approach us very differently, and their economies didn't get hit as hard because of it. And so Germany was able to shut down aggressively and then reopen aggressively, and they're in a much better position than we are. They're still dealing with their issues, and mind you, they're in Europe, and there's a lot of different countries that did poorly. Like Italy did poorly, France did poorly, Spain did poorly, and they're all relatively close. The UK did poorly, and so you have to contend with people with contiguous borders or in your locale who did poorly, affecting you. And then the Americas in general did poorly with it. So America did the worst with it, right? We have the most deaths, the most infections. But the entire Americas, we're the primary spreader of the COVID-19 pandemic now, or propagators of the pandemic, or spreaders of the virus, which is crazy. So we failed. And Donald Trump in particular failed as a president, because if we had a different president, they would have made a different decision, and they would have approached it very differently than he did. And now we're paying for it economically in every possible way. Like the amount of people that died was a direct reflection of his decision. So the fact that we passed the 80,000 mark and we're still in friggin' May is ridiculous, because the initial projections that got everybody alarmed had 84,000 people dying in August. We've already passed that.
You know, the crazy thing is, if you was to say that to him, he will backtrack and blame Obama's term for all this.
No, there's literally no argument. Like, objectively, you can look at and see how other leaders made decisions and how he did it. And like, if you look at the UK, you look at Brazil, you look at the USA, we were very incompetent in our approach, and you see the repercussions. And it's all based on you can look at the infection rate, the mortality rate, the economic fallout, like everything that we care about objectively, we did poorly on, and we're still doing poorly. And so you can't forgive that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, it was your responsibility and you failed. The president of New Zealand did a better job than you.
Shots taken.
So,
All right, man. We only got a minute left, so to wrap this up. We're gonna have to make 2 parts of this. It's gonna be 2 episodes for this. This is a long conversation.
Yeah. I kind of went off, man. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
you're
It's
good.
fine.
I mean,
You're good.
Good.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not
Go
gonna lie. I learned a lot of stuff from you today, bro. Like some stuff that I didn't know. Yeah. So and hopefully the viewers can learn a couple things too.
Hey, follow me on social media, BAshbyMD, on Instagram, B.AshbyMD, my last name. And I'm down on all platforms. So on Instagram, I give a lot of updates. So definitely follow me. I try to give like evidence-based medicine updates and try to filter the information out for people because, again, it's like the fake news Olympics, and I can't keep up with all the bullshit. So anything that you see on my page, it's been appropriately vetted and believable. So like I posted about possible immunity to the virus today. So that's something that's still a question. So yeah, follow me on social media. And my big recommendation to people is always vet your information. Period.
All right, King. Thank you for coming by.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
All right, have a good night.
It's been great.
Anytime.
All right, man.
Horticulture.